Well, it's been a while. Welcome back. The Royal Rota has returned from its summer break. If you need a reminder of what we do, we are a weekly podcast on all things royal. We work for ITV. We're called the Royal Rota. I'm Chris Shipp, and the other person who does the Rota
is Lizzie.
Is Lizzie Robinson.
Yes.
We are here. We're back. Hello. Now, the good thing about, or the interesting thing about our podcast, unlike others, is you can watch us on YouTube if you search Royal Rota ITV, or you can just listen to us as a kind of standard podcast. So I don't know why I'm feeling like I need to remind everyone what we do. I'm probably reminding myself what we do. We've had a summer of no podcasting. We've kind of been around doing different things, but we're back.
We're back, yep, for the autumn season, I suppose.
The fall, if you're...
The fall, if
you're... fall, if you're obviously in America, like some former members of the royal family are, who are never out of the news. There are actually quite a lot of things to catch up on that happened over August. Normally August is a very quiet time for the royals, isn't it? They all go away, have their breaks, but things that have happened, there's been some court action involving Prince Andrew. We'll bring you up to date on that in the US. Also, there's been...
Well, we've had the new Finding Freedom epilogue. We've had a statement from Harry and Meghan on the state of the world. So it's been quiet. Royals have taken some time out.
Yes.
Queen's been up in Balmoral. She's had various members of the family visiting her, but there has definitely been stories during August, but we will catch you up on all of those.
And one thing we did do over the summer period was watch the Windsors live at the Prince of Wales Theatre in London. So this is a show, if you're not familiar with the Windsors, a TV show on Channel 4 here in the UK, it is a comedy about the Windsors. On Channel 4, and they've just taken it onto the stage. We went to watch it, which was great, and afterwards we thought, how about we have a talk with some of the cast members?
So yeah, we're going to bring you a special segment with 3 of the cast members during the podcast this week.
Yes, Harry Enfield, who plays Prince Charles, Cara Tointon, who plays Kate, Duchess of Cambridge,
and Tim Wallace, who plays
Prince
Andrew. And there has been a lot of news about Prince Andrew in recent weeks, haven't there?
Where do we want to start, therefore?
I think with Prince Andrew.
Let's start with Prince Andrew. Right, okay, so you'll be aware that there is an ongoing criminal investigation by the FBI involving the serious allegations that have been raised about Prince Andrew following the arrest and subsequent death of Jeffrey Epstein. Over the summer, in August, a lawsuit was filed in New York by one of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, who's called Virginia Giuffre, used to be called Virginia Roberts. This is a civil case, and she is suing Prince Andrew, suing him for allegations that were detailed in those court papers.
These court papers that I've got right here.
Yes.
And in those court papers, it says that Prince Andrew... This is their court papers, Virginia Giuffre's court papers. Prince Andrew committed sexual assault and battery upon plaintiff when she was 17 years old. As such, Prince Andrew is responsible for battery and intentional infliction of emotional distress pursuant to New York common law. The damage to plaintiff has been severe and lasting. So that's her case. He has obviously always vehemently denied the allegations made against him.
Yeah, and in the court papers, there is a lot of detail about what she alleges happened, and she is quite clear. She is claiming that Prince Andrew sexually assaulted her during, is it in 3 locations, wasn't it? There was New York, there was London, and there was the private island that Jeffrey Epstein had in the American Virgin Isles.
That's right, yeah. And so they, she's made these allegations for a long time now, but she has now formally taken the case to sue him, but he has yet to respond, and we are yet to hear anything from him or his legal team, but he has always denied the allegations that she has made against him.
The next court case, or the next hearing in this, is due on the 13th of September. What we don't know, and actually no one's been able to find out, is whether these papers have been physically served on Prince Andrew, because he does have a period of time, doesn't he? So many days. How many days was it?
So as soon as he is
serve the papers, which we don't yet know whether or not it's happened.
Yeah, so he has to be served the papers in person. They can't be given to somebody else. They have to be given to Prince Andrew. And once he has been served those papers, he has 21 days to respond. So that we haven't had confirmation yet that he has even.
Yeah, we might get more detail in this court appearance, which is happening on the 13th. But Prince Andrew's options are rather limited, and as we understand them, he can either contest the court case, in which case whatever he says in this civil case could be used by the investigators from the FBI looking at the criminal case, or he could say nothing at all, in which case a judge is likely to find in Virginia Giuffre's favour just because he hasn't contested them. Or the other option is that he
could settle out of court.
He could settle out of court.
Yeah.
And settling out of court, people might therefore consider there is some form of admission of guilt. So those are his options. And as Lizzie said, Prince Andrew has always vehemently denied these claims. He's denied quite clearly in that interview he did on the BBC's Newsnight all that time ago that he'd ever even met her. Doesn't ever recall meeting Virginia Giuffre. But this is a significant escalation in the problems that he's facing, because yes, he's denied them, she's made these claims, she's made a set of allegations, but now we've got a civil case and a criminal case, which we haven't heard much from the FBI recently in any case, but two of those things running concurrently.
Yeah, the headlines are not good for Prince Andrew. And David Boyes, who is Virginia Giuffre's lawyer, he spoke to ITV News after the papers were, after it was announced that she was suing him, and he said to us that this case is not going away. Virginia's not going away. He's not going away. The case will go forward, and whatever obstacles that they try to put in front of us, we will overcome once this case goes to court. And he said their ability to stonewall has ended. They can still delay, but they can't escape the inevitable.
Right. And normally for balance, we would bring you what Prince Andrew has said about the whole thing, but he hasn't said anything. And as far as we are able to ascertain, his lawyers have rather gone to ground, and they're not saying anything. They're not doing any briefing. They're not giving anyone any idea or indication of what they are doing at the moment. So zero response from him. Now, apart from the court cases coming up on the 13th of September, that's the only concrete date that we know of coming up on the calendar.
That's the only concrete date. He spent part of the summer up in Balmoral with his mother, the Queen. The day after we found out that he was being sued, he travelled up to Balmoral. We understand that was a planned trip, but you can inevitably think that there were some conversations that were held.
Interestingly, we won't show you the picture because he has been pictured in Balmoral, but we don't use paparazzi photographs, so we don't have that picture to show you. But he has been there, and our understanding is also that he is there as well, and has been there for quite some time, but he's travelled back down.
He's back now. He's back in Royal Lodge at Windsor. Yeah. So, yes.
Okay, there we are. Story number one.
We should also mention, just following on, there was a story in the Sunday Times that the Queen had reportedly told people that she wanted the Duke of York to stay on as Colonel of the Grenadier Guards. This is one of his military roles. He obviously stepped back from royal duties after the Newsnight interview, but he has kept those roles, and it's understood as let it be known to the regiment that she wants the Duke of York to remain as Colonel.
And it's a point that people often raise, for example, and I'm just looking on here for Buckingham Palace's response because I'm trying to find the exact words.
They said that the Grenadiers and all the
appointments are in abeyance. In other words, a state of temporary disuse or suspension. And a lot of people do ask, why is it that Harry was stripped of all of his military titles when he left the royal family, but Prince Andrew has stepped down but hasn't been stripped of the military titles? Now, I don't have an answer for that, but presumably because actually Prince Andrew has stepped down pending the conclusion of this court proceedings.
Yeah, it was.
And at the moment, as in British law, anyone is innocent until proven guilty, and therefore nothing has been proven. They are just claims and allegations, and therefore the Queen clearly doesn't see the need to act or strip him of any of his military titles until such a time that this has reached a conclusion.
Yeah, Prince Andrew stepped back for the foreseeable future. when it was announced that he was standing back following that Newsnight interview. So, you know, Harry and Meghan they said that they were not coming back, they were not returning. So you know, I think to start stripping him of his titles, would that look like an admission of guilt?
Well, exactly. It would look like someone who's prejudging before, you know, all the facts have been set out, and before a court, either here or in the US or wherever else, has actually made a judgment on it. But yeah, the fact that these appointments are in abeyance, in other words, they're not used, they're kind of suspended. So anyway, there we are. An update on Prince Andrew, which happened in August. Something else that happened in August, and actually has been quite significant news on both sides of the Atlantic, has been the situation in Afghanistan. And actually, someone in a previous role who travelled there on a number of occasions, I felt particularly strongly about the situation there, and how the Taliban were turning the clock back to a time pre-2001. But I wasn't the only one to feel strongly about it, and actually other people, for example, the Duke of Sussex, who served in Afghanistan twice, decided that they wanted to release a statement about what was going on in Afghanistan.
Yeah, so the Duke of Sussex initially released a joint statement with his Invictus Games Foundation, and that statement was talking about how you know, they hope that the community, the veterans community, the military community would reach out to each other at this time. And then following that, there was a message that came from the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and in it they were talking about the fragility of the world right now.
So they released a statement at a point in time that there had been the situation in Afghanistan, there'd been that terrible earthquake in Haiti. Also, they wanted to comment too on the spread of the Delta variant around the world. And they decided to put out a statement on all three of those matters. And a lot of people were saying, well, why? You might understand why Harry was, you know, making comment on, for example, the military situation, because he's got personal experience of that. A lot of people were asking, well, why do they feel the need to do that?
Yeah, so their statement, they say the world is exceptionally fragile right now. As we all feel the many layers of pain due to the situation in Afghanistan, we are left speechless. As we all watch the growing humanitarian disaster in Haiti and the threat of its worsening after last weekend's earthquake, we are left heartbroken. And as we all witness the continuing global health crisis, exacerbated by new variants and constant misinformation, we are left scared. And they went on to say that they encouraged people to join them in supporting a number of organisations doing critical work.
Yes, exactly. Like you know, people that are helping those with the campaign to vaccinate, you know, everyone in the world. Also those veteran communities as well, and also those in Haiti who are trying to feed those affected by the earthquake. Why then was that controversial? As a lot of things that Harry and Meghan do, were they unfairly criticised?
Yeah, they were. I mean, they did come in for quite a lot of criticism, didn't they? And I suppose they felt that they were using their platform to highlight different ways of supporting the things going on around the world.
What's wrong with that?
I wonder if it might have been, you know, Harry, as we said, obviously did serve twice in Afghanistan. Would it have had more impact if Harry had released a more personal statement about his experiences in Afghanistan? And, you know, would that have landed better than perhaps what they put out, which didn't land
and I think there was some criticism of the, you know, the use of the word speechless. If you're going to make a statement, then you know, you find words that are I don't know, more accurately describe the situation rather than speechless. But anyway, they put that out, and actually we heard from Harry just yesterday talking again about the vaccine situation, wasn't he? Because he was only this week actually was talking to, or giving a speech to, an awards ceremony in London called the GQ Awards, the GQ Men of the Year Awards.
Men of the Year Awards.
And funny enough, Harry was presenting this awards to some non-males, because they were definitely females who helped develop the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine. Have a little listen to his speech, and you will hear within it how he was very critical of the news media. They said news media in inverted commas, so I hope that doesn't mean us, because we are news without the inverted commas, media, but also social media, about how they have spread misinformation about the vaccine. So have a listen to what Harry said to the GQ Awards.
It's not often that one gets a chance to wear a tuxedo at 3 p.m, unless of course it's from the night before, but well, here we are. I'm deeply honoured to be introducing our final awardees, who you'll immediately recognise for their landmark contribution to the fight against COVID-19. Our heroes of this evening are Professor Sarah Gilbert, Dr. Catherine Green, and the entire team of dedicated Oxford scientists. Their breakthrough research on the Oxford vaccine has brought the world one of the greatest tools for achieving vaccine equity. But there is a huge disparity between who can and cannot access the vaccine. Less than 2% of people in the developing world have received a single dose at this point, and many of the healthcare workers are still not vaccinated. We cannot move forward together unless we address this imbalance as one. At the same time, families around the world are being overwhelmed by mass-scale misinformation across news media and social media, where those who peddle in lies and fear are creating vaccine hesitancy, which in turn is dividing communities and eroding trust. This is a system we need to break if we are to overcome COVID-19 and the risk of new variants. The Oxford team have done their part. They are heroes of the highest order who gave us an instrument to fight this disease. They are our nation's pride, and we are deeply indebted to their service. For the rest of us, including global governments, pharmaceutical leaders, and heads of business, we have to keep doing our part. That must include sharing vaccine science and supporting and empowering developing countries with more flexibility. Where you're born should not affect your ability to survive, when the drugs and know-how exist to keep you alive and well.
That was Prince Harry. He's got a point, isn't he, in terms of the vaccine? That highlighting how the Western world has delivered billions of shots of this vaccine, but actually in the developing countries, so few people have had it, and there's all this misinformation as well. And there's actually large states, particularly in the southern states of the US, where vaccine hesitancy is much greater than it is in other areas, and that's where the spread at the moment is the greatest.
Yeah, this is a real focus for Harry and Meghan. We heard in their message there, they talked about the one that they released in the summer about vaccine hesitancy. They've done other work on this, and again in Harry's speech last night. But the bit that's been picked up widely is about those who peddle in lies and fear are creating vaccine hesitancy. The words peddling in lies and fear.
Yeah, so that was his speech. We haven't actually heard, we've done a lot on Harry and Meghan because they've actually been releasing statements and things. William and Kate have been reasonably quiet this summer. They've had their break. They sent a message of support to the British Paralympic team, didn't they? Wishing them well, and they've actually, as we speak, are doing very well.
Incredibly well, yeah.
In Tokyo, but their sort of work hasn't
they tend
restarted. To match the school.
Take a quieter August, but there was quite an interesting headline about them over the weekend in the Mail on Sunday about they reportedly seriously considering a move to Windsor.
Yes, from Kensington Palace.
Kensington Palace.
They could be moving into Frogmore Cottage.
That's occupied.
Well, I think there's a private arrangement, isn't there, at the moment between. Eugenie lives there, or bit. Eugenie lives there. With Jack Brooksbank and their new little baby August. That's a private arrangement with them and Harry and Meghan. So maybe William and Kate could say, "Oi, we're higher up the tree than you are. We want that house. We want to live in Frogmore Cottage."
I think
I'm speculating.
He's stirring.
This is literally based on no information or fact.
I think the setup for them works quite well at the moment. They're at Kensington Palace. It's near the school. They have made no secret about how much they love Anne Hall and their Norfolk base.
They can go into Norfolk as much as they want. Yep. They're in central London for all those, which is where a lot of their work is.
A lot of their work is, the school is.
Would you want to be in Windsor? Obviously it's where the Queen loves to be, but
it's not too far to London.
Go out riding all the time like the Queen does. It's not too far to London, but I just don't know why they would. And the kids' schools are currently, just a half-hour, 20-minute drive from Kensington Palace.
Yeah, the setup seems to work quite well for them at the moment. But a move to Windsor would put them closer to the Queen, and lots of other members of the family are down in Windsor. So just reports.
Right. God, I try to steer the news away from Harry and Meghan all the time. It's proving to be very difficult. There is also some Harry and Meghan news kind of connected to what happened with Oprah Winfrey, what happened on Good Morning Britain, why Piers Morgan left the programme. There was a report out yesterday from Ofcom, which is the broadcast regulator in the UK, after receiving more than 50,000 complaints about that particular programme, or the two programmes after the Oprah Winfrey interview. They looked in to see if there was a breach of the broadcasting code, and they issued their report yesterday to say there wasn't a breach of the broadcasting code. Yes, Piers Morgan was very forthright in his views. I think they said that his views on race and on disbelieving Meghan's suicidal thoughts had the potential to be harmful and highly offensive, but overall they said that the programme, Good Morning Britain, was balanced because it contained a range of views to counterbalance those of Piers Morgan. Is that an accurate summary?
I think that's an accurate summary. So it took into account the full show as opposed to just kind of Piers Morgan's comments. So yes. It was, it was Good Morning Britain was not found in breach, whereas yes. I know some of the headlines have been very much
Piers being exonerated.
Yeah,
and obviously
exactly.
I think Piers himself says that about himself because
well, yeah, he tweeted yesterday.
It's quite good for brand Piers, isn't it?
He tweeted yesterday, "I'm delighted Ofcom has endorsed my right to disbelieve the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's incendiary comments to Oprah Winfrey, many of which have been proven to be untrue. This is a resounding victory for free speech and a resounding defeat for Princess Pinocchio. Do I get my job back?"
Yes, but let's just talk about some of the issues, because there is an issue of the freedom of expression, which broadcasters have a right to express that freedom of expression, but in broadcasting, which carries with it some responsibilities as well, because of the privilege of having a television licence, as it were, then broadcasters have a duty of care to their viewers, and they have a duty to be impartial and accurate. And I think basically what Ofcom said after looking at everything that was said, and there were transcripts of various conversations, including ones that I had with Piers Morgan on the show that morning, that the show in its totality, because of the range of guests that they had on, was not in breach of the code, even though Piers Morgan walked off it the following day, walked back on again, and then left.
Yeah, I thought the statement from Ofcom on free speech was interesting. They said that this was a finely balanced decision. Mr. Morgan's comments were potentially harmful and offensive to viewers, and we recognise the strong public reaction to them. But we also took full account of freedom of expression. Under our rules, broadcasters can include controversial opinions as part of legitimate debate in the public interest, and the strong challenge to Mr. Morgan from other contributors provided important context for viewers.
Yes, exactly. And had it not been, I think they said, for some contributions from Piers' co-host Susanna Reid and somebody called Chris Shipp, who's ITV's royal correspondent, in challenging Piers' views that morning that he disbelieved Meghan, particularly on this issue. Well, there's two issues, wasn't there? There was the issue of race and racism, then there's the issue of actually her saying that her mental health had reached a point that she was considering suicide. Now, if you are disbelieving someone, one of the concerns and many of the complaints were that, if you did that, if you watched that programme, would you yourself be less likely to express your own problems with mental health? But he was challenged by lots of people, myself being one, Susanna Reid, his co-host, but also other contributions on the show from people of different backgrounds and ethnicities, and Ofcom found that Good Morning Britain was not in breach.
Yeah, this was the most complained about moment in the Watchdog's history, and one of those people that complained was actually the Duchess of Sussex. So
yes, we know that Duchess of Sussex reached out to the chief executive of ITV. Anyway, we caught up with Piers Morgan. We might as well show you what he said as well as the tweet. So this is what Piers Morgan said to our cameras about this very matter just yesterday.
I've had lots of offers, and they've accelerated in the last 10 hours, as you can imagine. And I will take my free speech campaign around the world. And all I require is to have an employer who believes in it as passionately as I do. Because free speech matters. Freedom of expression matters. We live in a democracy. It matters that you're allowed to have an opinion in this country.
And as we record this podcast, there has been no response from Team Sussex in Montecito in California. We did reach out to them. We asked them if they were responding. They haven't yet responded, and I would have thought they won't be now because yesterday was the day to respond. So, and there wraps up another rather busy story for the quiet period. Shall we talk about the Windsors? So we had gone and seen the Windsors at the Prince of Wales, the rather aptly named Prince of Wales Theatre. Harry Enfield is a well-known comedian in the UK. If you don't know him from playing Prince Charles, you might know him from... What's his other things? Kevin and Perry, the teenagers.
That's probably the one that I
Loads of money. Do you remember that? It's probably before your time.
No.
So Harry Enfield is a very well-known comedian. We were lucky enough to get to meet him. We were lucky enough to meet Cara Tointon, who plays the Duchess of Cambridge, and Tim Wallers, who plays Prince Andrew. Now, we mentioned the Prince Andrew situation earlier in this podcast. There are references to his difficulties in the stage production.
Yeah, the stage production,
I'd
they're
say
re-scripting constantly, so it remains totally up to date.
They even had a reference to Virginia Giuffre's lawsuit in the theatre production, so they're always having to completely update it because they're always, as you know from listening to this podcast, there's always a lot of royal news. So we had an interesting chat with them just about how they portray the royal family. Do you think they watch? Is it a fair representation? You know, you are making comedy out of their caricatures.
And how do you get away with it?
And yes, that was the first question to them, is like, precisely that. How do you get away with it? Right, I mean, where do we start? I suppose the first question I've got for you lot is, how do you get away with it? How do you get away with it every night?
Do you think we should have a warm-up question about set out the scene,
Well,
set out the show, tell us about it?
How do you get away with
it?
taking the pee out of the royal family every single night, just as you've done on the television, of course, as well?
Oh, I'm no stranger to controversy. And, you know, we used to do it on Spitting Image. It's the same now.
You're very current. You know, like, we noticed that many of the jokes, many of the storylines that you had on stage were things that had happened in the news just a few days before.
We're getting the rewrites in sometimes when something has to happen.
Yeah, well, the last one was on Sunday, and Bert rang me in the morning and said there's this massive story in the Mail on Sunday about how Charles is charging £100,000 to have dinner with people. You know, to put a line in. So I put this line in about it where Will says to me, "You've gone mad, Father." And I, well, yes, I think I have. Apparently, according to the Mail today, I only charge £100,000 for people to have dinner with me. No one laughed.
We laughed.
No one laughed.
It was too quick. It was too quick.
Pissing herself.
Yeah.
It was too current.
She came off stage just absolutely pissing herself. So funny.
Did you know? Do you add lines and tell each other, or you just
I told Kieran because he was the one who was having to.
Whoever
you know,
it
he
affects,
had to wait.
Sort of thing.
So
it keeps it interesting, and you never know what's coming. So I quite like that.
Yeah, but the play is generally better than that line. I promise you. That line is no longer in it.
Well, we came to see it and laughed, and kind of it's the kind of reality that we deal with every day that you were depicting as comedy on stage. That's probably why we found it more funny than the average person.
What, like Charles and Camilla wanting to send the country back to the Dark Ages?
Well,
is that what's actually happening?
I couldn't possibly comment.
You're delayed on that news.
And do you think Kate's as good a dancer as this one?
We're waiting to see Kate in the Union Jack sequin number.
Spangly number.
Or I suppose that next time we go on a royal tour, we could all just join in the song.
I think if you guys turn up in the outfits, and then it will get the ball rolling, and I'm sure Kate can give me a run for my money.
I think anything that gets satire, you know, it's satirical. So, but if you ask how we get away with it, I mean, satire is all about that, isn't it? It's about taking it to the nth degree, and you get away with it because there's a certain element of truth in it, but then you take it to exaggerated lengths. I think that's what it aims to do, is be satirical.
And I also think that if they're new characters that you get to love over a period of time, that takes a setup. But because we all know these people, and whether you love or don't love the royal family, I mean, I think you sort of come away with this having a love for them in a sort of an endearing element, because you know we're laughing at the craziness of the stories that we read about them, whether we know how true they are or what's going on. That's what we're laughing at.
And that's what's being
soap
portrayed,
opera
isn't it?
of it all.
That's
Yeah,
what's
it's
being
the soap
portrayed, is
opera,
the
yeah.
stories that we all know about.
And read very regularly.
Yeah, but we don't
know what goes on.
Nobody knows.
But you
So
don't.
no
you
one
don't-
actually believes it, do they? I mean, the cobblers that's written about me in the papers, you know, that might be based very slightly on a few facts.
Wasn't one of the papers saying that you'd apologise to Prince Charles about
I've
the
never
cruel-
apologised. Yeah, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So you know it's cobblers. So you know that 99% of the stuff that you guys say about the royal family is total cobblers. So that they're... So that they're...
We're gonna rewind that.
Well, you say
Not
that,
you two.
but then that's the stuff that our programme is based on. You know, it's not,
Yeah.
or this show is based on. It's not based like The Crown that pretends it's the
Well,
truth.
it doesn't
So
work.
I would say that, you know, it's the same as like if King Arthur came to see Spamalot, he'd probably be quite shocked at some of the inaccuracies compared to his life. And equal with the royal family, it's got so little to do with their real life that, you know.
Doesn't your on-stage wife, Camilla, who's played by Tracy Ann Oates,
Yeah.
doesn't she call it, it's a bit like The Crown but more truthful?
Yeah, she does, yeah. It's a good joke, that.
Yeah. So anyone who doesn't know, and we have viewers in America who might not have seen the Windsors on Channel 4 here, but this is obviously started as a television programme that
Yeah.
both of you were in, but
Yeah.
you're very new to,
Yeah.
to the Windsors. So just tell us how it moved from TV to stage.
Well, do you want to do it?
Well, Harry probably knows more than I do about how the original decision was made. But I remember Harry saying when we were doing, I think the second or third, I played Prince Andrew in the TV
There's
show.
a fair bit to talk about there as well. But we'll
Yes.
get to that in a moment.
Scurrilously.
And Harry said to me once when we were chatting away that there was an idea of bringing the TV show to the stage, and I said, "Wow, that would be a brilliant idea," because I used to think about all those comedies like Dad's Army, LOLO, all that. They all did stage shows. They all did, and they were hugely popular. And I thought, wow, to bring that genre back. And then it happened with recently with Upstart Crow. They did it as well.
And Fools and Horses.
And Only Fools and Horses
Yeah.
is a musical now, which is hugely popular. And I just thought it would be a brilliant idea. And I thought, I can't believe that would happen. And then Harry would probably be able to fill in the gaps. But suddenly we did a reading of it last Christmas of the first draft, thinking it would be done in sort of 2022 or something. And then suddenly we all got a call saying summer 21. And
Get yourselves ready.
yeah.
Yeah, there was like this 2 months came up. Basically, Bert and George about 2 years ago, we'd been approached by some theatre people to write theatre.
Bert and
shows.
George are the writers.
Yeah,
and
they're the
obviously
writers,
The
but-
late George Jeffrey as well,
Yeah,
who died about
yeah.
a year ago.
He died a year ago. Well, he died September 19th, yeah, so almost a year ago. And and Bert, Tyler Moore, and they said, we've been asked. And they seem like sort of quite a sort of go-getting company. They're really keen on it, you know, and if that happens, and then suddenly this year we got too much. It seemed to me a great idea because it's like doing a panto. I've done a couple of plays, but I found them a bit boring after a bit, you know, but this seemed like it was going to be really just because it was funny. And we could do it every year if we wanted, you know. And then normally, you know, we've got the brilliant Louise who plays Kate in the series. But she just couldn't do it, so we had to get this deadbeat to come in and take her place.
Is she any good?
Well, she'd sing and dance and act incredibly well, but other
So
than
she'll
that,
do.
you know.
But there is one omission, and that's
Yeah.
the Queen isn't in it at all, is she? And
I'm
why-
the Queen in it.
Well, apart from you,
I'm the Queen.
Why did you
You're the
decide?
sovereign.
Why did you decide not to include the Queen?
They never
in
had the
it?
Queen in the series,
Yeah.
and it was like a big
Quite
thing from
clever,
the
don't you
beginning.
think? Just because
I
in
think
terms
it's
of
really
the
clever.
respect the country has for the Queen,
Yes.
whether you agree with
Yeah.
Monarchy or not. Quite clever to kind of leave her and Prince Philip out.
Yeah, and it was just sort of more, I mean, obviously that's what the Crown does and all that, and it was more, you know, if you think of Dallas, so it's basically like Dallas or Dynasty, you know, if you gave, it's supposed to be like that, but a comedy on telly. So in Dallas, there was the head guy, and then there were the three sons fighting, jockeying for position, but you never really saw the head guy very much. So it's the same sort of idea that you've got the young ones jockeying around.
Yeah.
And were the children, obviously you refer to them, but were the children no-go in terms of kind of including them in the play as well?
What children?
Archie,
As
George.
in George, Charlotte, Louis.
Well, we're not going to play them, are we? We're too old. Even I'm too old
Maybe the next
to
one.
play George.
I think it's such a clever move when Harry says he plays the Queen. At the beginning, there's a small voiceover, and that's Harry's voice. And when we first heard it, of course it's Harry, and it's so brilliant. But I think it's such a clever move never to sort of go there, because that would cheapen and ruin it in a way.
How much studying of Kate do you have to do in order to portray her? Given that you didn't do the TV series, so I mean, what did you watch? How do you portray the Duchess of Cambridge?
It's a very serious moment in one's life. No, I think it was a very funny job in that it all came together, as we said, incredibly quickly. So you got the call, and the next week we were in the rehearsal room, and then it was all guns blazing. It was fast, furious, and there was a lot to do because it's a new piece, and so it's being rewritten all the time as we went. And it's an interesting thing. I think with comedy you always think, oh, it's a laugh, it's going to be really easy. But I found it incredibly difficult, and I was looking at, these guys walked in, they've got it, they've been doing it for a while, but the style that it is, you're not really doing an impression, you're doing a style of comedy. And it was really important.
It's like a caricature.
Yes, so you take certain mannerisms that she does, or whoever you're playing, and then you and it was really important. I got into the series last year. It was one of my lockdown pieces, and I fell in love with it and what they do. It's just one of those ones you can't stop once you start. And so it was really important to watch Louise because it's a style, and what they're all doing works really well. And of course, you can't take something from the television and plonk it on the stage, but in all honesty, I thought we were doing an episode sort of thing. And then the first day they said, we're going to learn some harmonies, and we all looked at each other and we said, oh my, we're singing, are we? We didn't know we were singing and dancing, and suddenly it became a musical. And then we did the tech week, and they said, we're going to give, Harry's going to now do a song, why not? And all of a sudden they gave him a song in the morning, and I think that night Harry said, yeah, I'm going to give it a go tonight. In the preview week, first preview.
They hadn't done the music yet.
And we all said, what? You can't, you don't know it yet. And he went out a cappella. He did the entire song.
Yeah.
We all, and you're in the...
I was sitting in the audience. Not only was I feeling surreal for sitting in the audience for the first time as an actor, but then Harry started singing unaccompanied, a cappella, the full number, out of nowhere.
It was probably the best theatre moment of my life.
We had and it was a much longer song than the one you saw then. So immediately after that, the director cut it in half. And because we got one review, someone had sneaked into the first reviewer, to the first preview, when they shouldn't have been. And they reviewed it, and they gave it 7.5 out of 10, and they took off 2.5 out of 10 for my singing. And I thought, yes, I am Piers Brosnan in Mamma Mia. This is it. I've made it at last.
But for all of us, it was such an amazing experience, because that first night in front of an audience was actually our first dress rehearsal. Yeah. So it's taught me to worry less, because if he can go out there and just do a song that he's just learnt half an hour before, then we really got to just try things, and it's a lot of fun. It
hasn't been a worrisome business, really, has it, since we started? There's a bit of a worry when everyone, because obviously a lot of people were coming to it new, thinking, should we be doing exactly what they're doing? And like Kara's, do I do what Louise does? And the same with Kieran, who plays Wills. No, just do your own thing. Everyone knows what the royal family's like, so
it doesn't matter.
So you've kind of been doing Prince Charles impersonations for some time.
Since I was about 12, I think, at school.
We were laughing recently when we saw an interview with the actor that plays Princess Anne in The Crown, and she says the way you say yes when you're royal, because you're that possible, is you just say ears.
Yeah, ears. E-A-R-C-E.
Yes.
There was a book once called Learning Stride. It was an Australian book that taught you how to speak English, and it had things like E-A-R-C-E, G-R-A-I-R, G-R-A-I-R, which was Yes Gregory, which was Ears Gregory, Ears Gregory, and they had in the 70s. They had so
very frightfully posh. Who made who cry? That's something we need to know.
Yeah.
We need to nail that down, don't we?
The fight. There's a massive fight.
There is a massive fight. Anyone who hasn't seen it, you and Meghan have a proper
You
fisticuffs.
do have
Yeah.
proper fisticuffs.
I know.
Yeah,
that's
she's
my
a right
matrix.
hard nut in real life.
You know what I mean? I'll leave that for the audience to decide. She made me cry. No.
One couldn't possibly comment. Now, listen, I mean, we can't talk to the actor who plays Prince Andrew without actually talking about some of the very serious allegations that exist in real life that he has vehemently denied. But you how do I phrase this? You don't ignore the facts
It
that
is
that's
addressed.
going on. It's addressed in a big way, isn't it?
It is.
Now,
yeah.
obviously, there's certain things we can't do legally that you can do on stage, but that's pretty bold what you're doing.
It is bold, but again, it goes back to. I mean, it goes back to the word satire, doesn't it? Satire is, at its best, bold, but it doesn't make any judgment about it. In that it depicts it,
Yes.
and it says it, but nobody then says makes it. Other characters don't make a judgment on, and I don't make a judgment as the actor on him doing it. I just play it.
Yeah, that's it.
As
What
given.
happens? What are you wearing?
Can I chip in there? Sorry, because I think the issue here is you said he's vehemently denied it. Now we are not satirising
His denial.
what he has done.
Yeah.
We're satirising the vehemence of his denial. That's what we're satirising,
Yes,
not
but-
what he's done
But there
or
are
not done.
allegations, and he has denied them.
Yeah,
and
but without vehemence,
nothing,
with a strange kind of vehemence.
nothing has happened in court yet.
No.
But at the end of the show, what are you wearing?
Well, that was purely a vehicle so we could get Tim dancing.
That was my gag.
Sometimes you have to sort of.
That was Harry's gag.
That was my gag, so I'm the
But
one who
so
gets
should we
sued.
explain to anyone who hasn't seen it, what are you wearing?
A prison
again?
uniform.
An orange kind of jumpsuit prison
Yeah, a
uniform.
kind of
Right.
Guantanamo Bay coloured
Yes.
uniform.
Yeah. No.
So you could say that's judging it, but it's also satirising it, isn't it? But seriously, I don't. To be honest, when I did the TV show, and it all started to come
started
out.
to come through this
Yeah.
year,
I, in a way, it's going to sound odd, this, but I sort of ignored that. I tried to ignore. I tried to ignore the insinuations that were going on and the accusations that were being made, because it's so. The Windsors is so far removed from the reality, and by that I mean it's a cartoon version, that to get too involved in any sort of serious factual examination of it wouldn't have done me any good. It's meant to be the sort of buffoon character, there's a sort of element of almost Terry Thomas type, it's an old reference, but that type of character, the sort of upper class buffoon, and if I was trying in any way to be serious about that, it just wouldn't be funny, and it wouldn't be, it just wouldn't be appropriate. It would then be murky.
Yeah.
So I wanted to move completely away from that, and I was, and everyone, we all agreed that was the only way to do it.
Because you were playing Prince Andrew pre the resurgence
Yeah,
of
and
these
it was,
allegations.
and so therefore there was not much to it in terms of there was no backstory like there is now, or at least not much. There had been rumblings early on, but it had all sort of gone away.
Yeah.
And then when
When Epstein was arrested, it
yeah,
kind of all
everything,
resurfaced, isn't it? But
and the whole
and again, as
story
comedy
of
writers,
Elaine.
you take what's happening in real life and you turn it into comedy.
Yeah.
But clearly, with Prince Andrew, I mean, it's a pretty
the
serious
nature of the beast
set of
changed.
allegations.
The nature of the beast dramatically changed.
Yeah.
But in a way, if the George and Bert, when they were writing, they just literally by one weekend we just finished filming the third series before that interview. So in fact, that interview came out literally about 2 days after we finished. So in a way, we sort of slightly missed that. But I mean, they would have relished it as
Prince
satires.
Andrew's interview with Emily
Sorry,
Bennett
Prince.
in the usual-
Yes,
yeah,
the interview.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I mean, we clearly need to talk about that. Lizzie wanted to know, as we were talking about before, is whether there's any further episodes on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's going to be any.
Not that we know.
So how many you've had?
3.5 series, I think. We did 3 series
series.
and 2 specials.
Yeah.
2 specials.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
the stage show. But I mean, there's plenty of material, so you could.
Yeah, I
come
guess
back
so.
With another one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not up to us. We're merely tools.
It's quite a short run here, though, isn't it? Because.
Well, it was like free for 2 months while
Mormon's back,
Mormon's
isn't it?
going,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah.
just like, right, get on with it.
Yeah.
You
a
know.
a lot of fun, I reckon.
Oh,
is it?
great
Yeah.
fun.
Doing this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So much
everyone
fun.
is good on it.
Have any of you met them, or you literally just
I
take
have.
it? Which ones have you
I've met Camilla, she was very nice. Yeah, I've met Anne, she was very funny
Charles?
and very small.
And very direct.
Just to add some.
Yeah, she's just
Yeah.
really funny and
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
And Camilla was really nice, funny voice.
But not Prince Charles.
You met-
No.
No.
I've met Prince Charles. He's
You've met
very
Prince Charles.
lovely. Very
What
lovely.
was your meeting with Prince Charles?
I
On the
was.
set of EastEnders or something?
It wasn't actually. It was at the RSC. He loves his Shakespeare,
Yeah.
doesn't he? So he came around afterwards.
Is
He was lovely.
He's president of the. Isn't he?
I think he is.
Well, he's president
company.
Yeah.
and patron of everything.
Yeah.
So,
Everything.
you probably
And we're at the
Yeah.
Prince of Wales
We're at the
Theatre.
Prince of Wales Theatre. So
Yes, of course,
Yeah.
it's Prince of Wales Theatre.
Yeah.
And we had a bit of a rebellion. That's the only last thing I want to say is that because the last song in it where we're singing "We Are the Windsors," and there was a line, we always do our duty and never ever take a bus, and we are the Windsors, God save us. And we had a bit of a rebellion as a cast and sort of got it changed to never ever cause a fuss, because it was basically they're not going to cause a fuss about our play. Whatever we throw at them, they're not going to cause a fuss about
you
it.
don't think they're gonna
And
come and
that's
watch,
the
do you? So-
that's hats off to them as a family.
Yeah.
They just have to be, well, that's the product that we are.
Yeah.
And hats off to them.
We enjoyed that chat. I enjoyed that chat. It was good fun,
It was
wasn't
good fun. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was really nice to meet them.
Really, really nice people as well, all 3 of them. So we thank them for their time. And it's only got quite a short run. I think, as we said in our chat, it only runs until about the 9th or 10th of October. So if you do want to go and see it at the Prince of Wales Theatre in London, get your tickets. Worth doing, worth seeing, especially if you follow this kind of news. If you're watching this podcast, you know all the jokes in there. There won't be a single joke that you won't understand because it's all covered very well in this podcast.
Hopefully.
I hope.
We hope. We hope. That's the aim.
I'm going to take a pause from Harry and Meghan matters. A couple of things to wrap up on. RNLI, the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, which saves lives at sea, has got a new lifeboat. They tweeted some video of this particular boat, or at least one of their boats, and it's got a new name. What's it going to be called, their newest boat?
It's been named in honour of the Duke of Edinburgh.
Yes, it's been named the Duke of Edinburgh in honour of his maritime service. as we
Maritime
told you
service and
many times on this podcast. He was in the Royal Navy, and actually there's a particular anniversary date because they've come up with this name today because this was the day 71 years ago in 1950 that he took assumed command of his first Royal Navy ship.
HMS Magpie.
Yes.
Yep, his first seagoing command in the Royal Navy.
Yep.
So a very fitting day and a fitting tribute to the Duke of Edinburgh. I
And also
think.
his son, Prince of Wales, when he was obviously down on this boat, seeing it being built recently, screwed on a tiny little nod to his father, didn't he? A little plaque, very small plaque with a magpie symbol on it, just to say, this is a nod to my father's maritime history.
Not the only nod to the Duke of Edinburgh's maritime history this week. His boat Blue Bottle, which was a wedding present to him and the Queen,
It's been racing.
has been racing. It's
in
been
the water.
restored and it competed in the Edinburgh Cup. So it's been racing for the first time in many years.
And here's some pictures of it because one of our correspondents, Peter Smith, went up to the Firth of Forth in Scotland and saw it in the water on the
in
ocean.
action.
Not ocean, is it? It's water. Firth of Forth is the mouth of the river. It's the Forth of the River Firth.
That's a tongue
The
twister.
Firth of Forth. Anyway, it's on the water. I won't say
It's
the
back on
sea.
the water.
On the water.
And and Prince Philip had been kept up to date with
Yep.
its restoration and was sent pictures and
This
was
is a
very-
wedding present that he and the Queen were
Yeah.
given by the Cows Yacht Sailing
Yeah.
Club, wasn't it? In 1947.
Yes.
Wow.
So many dates to remember. But yes, so that was nice to be able to see that back out in action.
Now, I received a copy of the book the other day, and it's called Finding Freedom. Now, you might think, Finding Freedom, I know that book, it's been out before. Well, it's been updated. And so some of the publicity, there was, actually, funny enough, there were some people, weren't there, who were saying that, all this stuff about Meghan's being dragged up to divert attention from Prince Andrew, the story we told you about at the top of this podcast. But actually, the publicity was actually generated by the publishers of the Finding Freedom book, because it's come out in paperback, and they've added a chapter, an epilogue, because so much has happened over the last year.
They've added an epilogue, and we should make clear it's an unauthorised biography. But
there are accusations that Meghan and Harry helped or gave their friends permission to speak to the authors Omid Scobie and Carolyn Durand, but Harry and Meghan have always said, and did so in the court case actually when they took the Mail on Sunday to court, that this was an unauthorised biography and they had nothing to do with it.
That's right. But it did contain several interesting new lines. I have just scribbled
well, they kind of
down.
reignited the row, didn't they, between them and the Queen over all those issues that we discussed earlier in the year.
So a source claimed to the authors that Harry and Meghan were disappointed that the Queen didn't take full ownership of some of the allegations made around racism in that Oprah interview.
Yes, and in other words, now what I think was interesting about this is because Harry and Meghan had always previously gone out of their way to protect the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh from any of their criticisms. Yep. And yet here in the book, according to a source, Harry and Meghan were saying they don't think the Queen has properly addressed the claims, the accusations that Meghan made about racism, talking about Archie's skin colour, etc.
Now, the authors said that the book wasn't attacking the Queen, it wasn't directed at the Queen, but the statement that was published following the Oprah interview was published directly from the Queen. That recollections may vary.
Yes.
Statement. So I suppose if you're criticising, or a source is criticising that statement, then it is
the Queen. Yes,
criticising
exactly.
the Queen.
Recollections may vary was the sort of very sort of small, short response that came out a couple of days or a day or two after the Oprah Winfrey interview, and it hasn't really changed from that position. And actually, if they were looking into these allegations, no one's ever updated us about where we're at with them. And we haven't even had an update on the so-called bullying allegations.
Well, the book actually talks about that, and it says how information was being leaked about the couple to discredit them. Ahead of that Oprah interview, they specifically mentioned the bullying allegations. The book claimed that the royals were quietly pleased Meghan did not attend the funeral of Prince Philip. It claimed that William was furious about the Oprah interview, and it said that there were no regrets about the decisions that Harry and Meghan had made.
Wasn't there a claim as well that that Harry and Meghan had considered naming the person who is alleged to have made these racist comments?
Yeah,
right.
They did.
But then you kind of would consider. I mean, you either name them or you don't. So that is the consideration, isn't it? And they didn't. So I kind of took their story as well. They decided they were weighing up whether to do it or not, and they didn't. It's like
they didn't. I mean, I think the thing about
front page story in the Mail one day, wasn't it? That
Finding Freedom is, it is always always tried to be sort of how Harry and Meghan, their take on how things have been, and it is very favourable towards Harry and Meghan. There's no denying that, and some of the new stuff in the epilogue, I think there were some interesting lines, but I don't think overall there was anything that would probably have hugely surprised us. Of course William was furious about the interview, and he had to look at his reaction to
when he was asked, "Is your family racist?" Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
And we know they've got no regrets about the decisions that they've made because they've decided to continue with life.
I think on balance,
out in
you
America.
could say if Meghan had come to Prince Philip's funeral, then yes, there would have been a lot of attention on her being there. There was enough attention on Harry being there and seeing William for the first time.
So it's some interesting, and it brings it up to date. But I don't think
actually talking of Harry and William seeing each other for the first time. Obviously, they came back for the Diana statue, and we should just note that it was Princess Diana's, the anniversary of her death, 24 years since that crash in Paris way back in 1997. And the statue that Harry and William unveiled, you might remember us talking about that back in July, was open especially on that day, wasn't it? Because it doesn't normally open on a Tuesday.
Yeah, so you can see it for free on the path that surrounds the sunken garden. You can't actually get into the sunken garden itself, but you can see the statue sort of via the walkway that runs around it. And normally that's open to the public between Wednesday and Sunday, but they decided to open it on Tuesday the 31st in recognition of the anniversary of her death.
Yes, and actually we saw some people who were taking pictures of it, so we know that it was open because you can actually go up to it, but you can walk around the sunken garden and get photos.
You can get a pretty good view, but they don't allow people into the sunken
before we go, actually, we should tell people about Mila Sneddon, shouldn't we? Mila, who you might remember was the little girl who has leukemia. She met the Duchess of Cambridge at the Palace of Holyrood House. You remember she told us some time ago she was meeting the real life princess, and the Queen knew all about her picture, and this was one of those photographs that was featured in Kate's portrait project Hold Still.
Yeah, little Mila, when she was shielding from her father, that picture of her, we can show you now if you're watching, up against the window looking out at Dad, who was having to live away from home to keep little Mila safe.
A story that touched Kate, and Kate finally met her when they were up in Scotland recently.
In her pink dress.
In her pink dress.
Yep.
And she's got a whole new project of her own, hasn't she, Mila?
She has. Scoot in September.
Yes. Well, we're looking to see if we can get as many people as possible on their scooters using our hashtag Scoot in September. And that's what we really wanted to do, was just highlight and showcase symptoms that children that are diagnosed with blood cancer can be subjected to. So coughs and temperatures, aches and pains in the muscles as well, so that people can be informed and what to look out for.
Get on their scooters.
And please donate.
And please donate.
So support Mila. Please support Mila. She's still battling leukemia. They're trying to get through to next March, which is when, as the family say, they get to ring the bell, which is the end of Mila's treatment. But she's only just been in hospital just in the last couple of weeks, actually. So, you know, it's difficult battling leukemia at the best of times, even more difficult when you're just 5 years old. So she has our full support.
But she and the family have kind of the most amazing spirit, and they sort of felt like they wanted to use the profile they've gained over the last year or so to sort of do some good.
She's a very spirited little girl.
She is.
Right, we're done, aren't we? Anything else on your list?
Nope. List done.
Bumper podcast to wrap up on some significant and some serious developments and some rumour. There's always rumour, and some reaction and some stage show. I mean, not a bad way to start.
Not a bad way.
All things?
I mean, I don't know what we're going to put in next week's.
Yeah, next week's show might be quite light. So, all this stuff might happen. I mean,
well, it always does.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
So
the Royals are back at you, as they always are in September, and we will bring you all of that next week on YouTube, on the podcast, or in the meantime, you know where you can keep up to date in social media. On Twitter, I am at ChrisShipITV. You are
at Lizzie ITV.
And on Instagram at ITV News Royals, where we stick up all the pictures which we think you will like to see. Thank you for watching. Hope you're well. Hope you had a good summer. Welcome back, and we will see you next week.